Darling, won't you at least sip the coffee I made just for you? Ethan said, his smile strangely stiff, like it had been rehearsed. We were at Lily's tastefully decorated dining room in Nashville, a familiar setting for our monthly family brunches. The cup in front of me gave off a faintly metallic scent that made my stomach clench. I'm Emma, and if you'd told me a year ago that I'd be quietly wondering if my husband was slowly poisoning me, I would have laughed. After 3 years of marriage and far too many mysterious bouts of food poisoning, I'd learned to be careful, especially around Lily. She was an expert at creating disasters in disguise, making me sick or embarrassed while wearing that same faux sweet smile Ethan had on now. "So sweet of you," I said, my smile tight, brain buzzing with suspicion. The smell rising from the cup was foreign, unlike any roast I'd ever encountered. It brought back the memory of last month, when I landed in urgent care after sipping tea. Lily insisted she brewed herself. The doctors were baffled, and Lily swore she'd brewed that tea the same way she always did for herself. From across the table, Lily's gaze locked on me as she idly stirred her untouched coffee. "Ethan has really gotten into brewing lately," she said, smirking like she knew a joke I didn't. "Trying out all kinds of techniques. Just to impress you," she added, voice syrupy. The way she lingered on, "to impress you," sent a cold shiver crawling up my spine. Ethan had been spending more evenings at Lily's place, always with some excuse about planning something special for our anniversary. But the vibe was all wrong. The hushed voices that always fell silent the moment I walked in, the cryptic messages I caught glimpses of on Ethan's screen, and now this cup of coffee with its strange, almost chemical aroma. I raised the cup to my lips, faking a sip while scanning their faces. Ethan and Lily shared a brief glance, the kind that said everything. I theatrically checked my phone, then stood up in a hurry. "Oh wow, I just remembered. I have to take a quick work call. Lily, mind if I borrow your study for a bit?" As I passed her seat, I faked a small trip, using the moment to swap our cups unnoticed. "Oops, sorry about that," I said, regaining my balance. "I can be so clumsy." Lily dismissed my apology with a thin smile. "Just don't knock anything over in there," she said coolly. I gave a quick nod and rushed out, heart thudding in my chest. From the open doorway, I had a clear view of them at the table. Now it was a matter of waiting and watching. I stood at the edge, watching as Lily raised the cup to her mouth, my gut twisting with dread. A part of me screamed to call out, to stop her, but I had to know for sure. Too many nights had been spent under fluorescent lights in ERs, too many hours writhing in pain, always after eating something they'd made. But things hadn't always been this way. I met Ethan at a friend's wedding in Nashville 3 years ago. Back then, he was all charm and warmth. Lily had once appeared warm, often including me in plans and eagerly offering to assist with wedding preparations. In hindsight, the warning signs had always been there, like the way she always managed to accidentally spill something on my clothes during big occasions, or how my dish always had an odd, overpowering flavor whenever she cooked. It started quietly, a bit of nausea, a slight skin reaction. Ethan never failed to offer a convenient excuse. "Probably something you ate earlier," or "looks like you're catching a bug." But over time, the pattern became undeniable. The scariest moment came 2 months ago. I landed in the hospital after a simple breakfast at their house. The doctors found unknown traces in my system they couldn't explain. But Ethan brushed it off, claiming I must have taken some old medicine by accident. I held tightly to the doorframe as I watched Lily take another drink. Ethan scrolled through his phone, unaware, as if nothing was amiss. My cup remained untouched, its contents now cold and still where I left it. The faint metallic scent lingered, sending a chill down my spine. I noticed a faint tremble in Lily's hand. She set the cup down as her face lost all color. "Ethan," she whispered, voice unsteady, "I don't feel right." Ethan glanced up, and horror dawned on his face as he registered the wrong cup. He leapt to his feet, sending his chair crashing to the floor. "Lily, what's going on?" Lily's hands were now shaking uncontrollably. She began, stumbling as she stood, her hand grasping the table for support. "Ethan, what exactly did you put in the coffee?" I stepped out into view, phone in hand, recording everything. Ethan knelt beside Lily, looking pale and shaken. "You weren't supposed to drink that," he murmured. But the silence in the room made his words cut through like a knife. Lily's eyes widened, panic and realization flooding in at once. "Help! Call someone!" she choked out, collapsing. "Please! Something's wrong!" I dialed 911 immediately, my hands oddly calm despite the chaos. Lily convulsed on the ground, her body twitching violently. Ethan sank to his knees, dread spreading across his features as the situation spiraled. "Yes, this is an emergency. Please send an ambulance to 1542 Maple Grove Drive," I said with unnerving calm, my phone capturing every second. "My sister-in-law is experiencing a severe reaction, possibly caused by the coffee she drank," I told the dispatcher. "She's conscious but shaking uncontrollably." While I gave details to the dispatcher, Lily stared at me, her eyes locked onto mine. The calculating gleam in her eyes was gone. Only raw fear remained. "Emma," she whispered hoarsely, You switched the cups. You knew." "Assistance is on the way, ma'am," the operator assured. "Stay with me on the line." Ethan was spiraling into panic. "Lily, this wasn't supposed to happen. It wasn't for you. I didn't mean—" "Shut up, Ethan," Lily snapped, her words cutting through the room. Her fury briefly eclipsed her suffering. "You ruined everything. You promised it would only make her sick enough to miss the board meeting next week. You swore it wouldn't be traceable." A cold dread crept down my spine. The same board meeting where I was meant to pitch my proposal to a high-profile client. The very client Lily had been chasing for months at our rival companies. Suddenly, everything made sense. "The herbal tea last month," I said steadily, "and that breakfast 2 months ago. You did it on purpose, didn't you?" Lily grimaced as another wave of agony hit her. "The tea was meant to keep you from attending the Johnson pitch, but you showed up anyway." She hugged her abdomen and bent forward in pain. "Ethan told me, we just had to ruin your credibility, make the clients see you as unstable." Sirens wailed in the distance, getting closer. Ethan backed away, eyes darting. "Lily, shut up. You're delirious." "I know exactly what I'm saying," Lily snapped, though her words came out uneven. "It all started when Emma kept taking what was mine. It was your job to make sure she drank it today." The EMTs stormed in through the front door, and I moved out of their way. As Lily was being strapped onto the stretcher, I stopped the recording and forwarded the video to my secure email and my attorney. Ethan remained rooted in place, watching in horror as everything he orchestrated fell apart. "I'm riding with her," I said firmly. "I want to make sure she's well cared for." I held Ethan's wide, fearful stare. "And I bet the doctors will be quite curious about the contents of that coffee." At the ER, chaos surrounded Lily as doctors moved quickly. I sat in the hospital waiting area, gripping my phone tightly as I listened to Lily's confession over and over. The quiver in her tone, the terror in her gaze, it confirmed everything I'd suspected. I hadn't been imagining it. "Relative of Lily Anderson?" a nurse called out. I stood, realizing Ethan hadn't returned. He'd muttered something about moving the car 20 minutes earlier, then vanished. "I'm her sister-in-law," I said, following the nurse in. "Is she going to be okay?" She's stable for now, but the toxin levels in her system are alarming. The nurse looked somber, clearly concerned. The doctor needs a word. Something in the blood work looks off. Dr. Harris, tall, silver-streaked hair, and piercing eyes, stood outside Lily's room. Mrs. Collins, can you walk me through what happened before your sister-in-law became symptomatic? I inhaled deeply and retrieved my phone from my coat pocket. I believe this will answer some of your questions. As the audio played, her expression turned from neutral to troubled. This is extremely serious, she murmured, scribbling notes onto her tablet. Those substances don't appear in coffee by accident. Someone added them on purpose. At that moment, Ethan came into view down the corridor, pale and glistening with sweat. It was clear he'd heard everything. Emma, he began, stepping closer. I can explain. Step away, Dr. Harris ordered, pressing the call button. We need hospital security at room 412, stat. Ethan lifted his hand slowly, surrendering. You misunderstood. Lily was confused. She didn't mean those things. I pulled up the screenshots I'd emailed myself after finding them in his phone days ago. So the texts where you and Lily discussed making sure I was out of the way before the Henderson pitch? Just casual banter? His face turned pale instantly. You looked through my phone? Of course, especially after finding poison in your desk drawer. I faced Dr. Harris. Doctor, I've been admitted to the hospital 3 times over the past 6 months for mysterious symptoms. Could it be connected to what Lily ingested? The doctor's expression tightened. We'll conduct tests to compare the results. Security will ensure your husband is available for further questioning. 2 security personnel arrived, flanking Ethan on both sides. He looked cornered, his polished exterior unraveling rapidly. Lily and I just wanted you to slow down. You were burning out, taking all the big clients. She thought if you rested. So drugging me was your idea of help? I asked, voice steady while my hands curled in rage. How far back does this go? Was that holiday party incident you're doing too? He didn't answer, and that said more than words ever could. I could see Lily through the glass behind him, wires and machines keeping track of her vitals. The confidence Lily once wore like armor had vanished, leaving behind the raw panic of someone cornered by truth. Detective Mendoza is on her way, Dr. Harris informed me. She'll need statements from everyone involved. I gave a quiet nod, a surreal calm settling over me. The veil had lifted. Nothing could be hidden anymore. Less than an hour later, Detective Mendoza arrived, her calm authority filling the corridor. A veteran in domestic abuse investigations, she listened closely as I replayed the brunch recording and scrolled through incriminating texts. Mrs. Collins, she said while scanning her notes, you referred to earlier hospital visits. Can you walk me through those? I pulled out my phone and opened a private log I'd kept quietly for months. It started on the 10th of February, after dinner at Lily's place, intense stomach cramps and vertigo. Then again on the 23rd of April, after the tea, and a third time on the 5th of June, post-breakfast. I kept my tone steady as I explained. The symptoms echoed each other, similar, but varied just enough to avoid diagnosis. Her gaze sharpened as she scanned the detailed timeline, dates, symptoms, events. You started tracking once things felt off? I hesitated briefly, then pulled a second phone from my purse. I began using a secondary phone, separate number. I recorded a few conversations when I was around them. Lily and Ethan were vague, but the context is damning. One of the recordings caught Lily's voice clearly. The Henderson deal is worth too much, Ethan. We can't let her jeopardize it all. A couple of sick days, that's all we need. Ethan replied, voice low but incriminating. This time I used something more potent. She won't be at that meeting. Detective Mendoza's jaw tightened as the recording played. Through the glass, I noticed Lily awake, no longer smug, now clearly unsettled. "We've initiated toxicology testing," the detective said. "Dr. Harris has already flagged compounds not naturally found in the body. We'll need access to your residence, too." A sudden outburst in the corridor drew our eyes. Ethan was yelling at the security officers, panic overtaking his voice. "Let me talk to my wife," he shouted. "Emma, please, you have it all wrong. We were trying to help you." Detective Mendoza moved between us. "Mr. Collins, I suggest you stop talking. We've already uncovered proof of premeditation." Ethan let out a brittle laugh, one that rang eerily down the hall. "She was burning out, okay? Taking on every big client. We just wanted her to rest. Lily said if she got sick for a bit, she'd finally slow down." Detective Mendoza's tone cut through the air. "That's not concern, Mr. Collins. That's attempted homicide." Ethan's face turned ghostly pale. "Murder? No, that's not what this wasn't supposed to. So this was your plan?" I said coldly. "Drug my coffee and hope I'd miss the meeting?" Ethan didn't say a word, but his silence betrayed him. Through the hospital room window, Lily was watching, her expression caught between panic and scheming. I had no doubt she was already spinning her own version, one where she was the misguided sister-in-law, just worried about my burnout, not the mastermind behind months of deliberate sabotage. "Secure all electronics," Mendoza told the security team, her voice clipped. "Double staff the exits. I want every hallway monitored until toxicology is confirmed." Dr. Harris walked into Lily's room, tablet in hand, her expression darkening as she scanned the screen. Lily tried to sit up, her fingers trembling as she gripped the sheet. Lily shifted uncomfortably, attempting to sit upright, though her hands still trembled slightly. "There are dangerous levels of foreign compounds in her system," Dr. Harris said in a flat tone. "Most troubling is a compound primarily found in pharmaceutical trials. Definitely not something available to the public." Lily turned pale, visibly shaken. "That can't be," Ethan muttered. "It was only supposed to cause light symptoms." "Light symptoms?" Mendoza cut in, flipping open her notebook. "Like the repeated health scares your sister-in-law has documented over the past half-year?" Just then, the door swung open, and another officer stepped in, evidence bag in hand. "These were recovered from Mr. Collins's office at Anderson Marketing," he stated, displaying a collection of labeled vials and accompanying documents detailing dosages and observed effects. My legs nearly gave out as the depth of their scheme sank in. "You treated this like some twisted lab test, recording every result?" "It's not how it sounds," Lily said. "We were just trying to see what would work," Lily muttered. "The first attempts didn't do anything. So when she kept showing up, you made it stronger? You upped the dosage," Mendoza said coldly, studying the vials one by one. "You do realize some of these are lethal in large doses?" Silence blanketed the room. Through the glass, Ethan collapsed into a chair in the corridor, burying his face in his hands. "All this over the Henderson deal," I said, voice low. "It wasn't just about one meeting. You wanted me gone, for good, because they insisted I stay on as lead." Lily's features twisted with rage and desperation. "You were dismantling everything I worked for. That portfolio, I spent years nurturing it. And then you come in, and they all just shift to you. Ethan said he could fix it by getting rid of me." The weight of that truth settled over the room like a storm cloud. That wasn't our intention. Lily tried to defend, but Dr. Harris stepped in firmly. "That coffee sample contained a dangerously high dose," Dr. Harris said sharply. "Finish that cup. and we might not be having this conversation. Detective Mendoza addressed the officer beside her. Secure search warrants for their residences and workplaces, and get in touch with the pharmaceutical manufacturer listed on the labels. We need to trace how they accessed these compounds. Lily sank deeper into the bed, her expression hollow. This wasn't how it was supposed to end, she murmured. Ethan kept insisting. One more dose, one last push. I moved to the edge of her hospital bed, forcing my tone to remain calm, though my hands betrayed me. All those unexplained illnesses, the missed opportunities, the damaged reputation, you stood by and documented it all like it was a science project. Who does that to someone? Silence thickened. Truth didn't need repeating. In the hallway, Ethan's voice was drowned out by officers reciting his Miranda rights. Lily fixated on her trembling fingers, avoiding my eyes completely. I turned to Detective Mendoza, pushing past the sting of betrayal. I'm prepared to give my full statement now. The court proceedings stretched across 3 long weeks, though it felt like I had aged a decade. I sat through every session, listening as prosecutors meticulously presented their evidence. From the vials in Ethan's drawer to the timeline of symptoms and the audio tapes, they had it all. What struck me most was how unrecognizable they looked on the stand. Lily, once so controlled, now looked frail and haunted. Ethan never once looked up. His eyes stayed glued to the floor as experts spoke of lethality and intent. Dr. Harris's testimony dealt a heavy blow to the defense. She laid out detailed reports tracking the incremental rise in dosage, making it clear this was no accident. A pharma rep confirmed Ethan sourced the compounds illegally through an old contact from his college days. In her closing remarks, the prosecutor emphasized the deliberate and repeated nature of the defendant's actions. This went far beyond professional rivalry, she said. It was a strategic campaign of poisoning with a deadly trajectory. When the verdict was announced, there was no triumph in me, just a quiet, exhausted sense of relief. Ethan and Lily were each convicted on several charges, including attempted homicide and conspiracy to commit a felony. The judge's voice cut through the still courtroom. These deliberate, prolonged actions against a relative warrant the harshest punishment allowed by law. I watched in silence as the bailiffs led them away, cuffs glinting under the courtroom lights. I used to know those faces. Now they were masks, twisted by envy and desperation. They sacrificed everything: reputation, livelihood, even their freedom, for a twisted attempt to erase me from the picture. A year later, I found myself at the podium of the Nashville Business Leaders Conference, ready to deliver the keynote address. The irony hit hard. This was the very moment Lily had worked so hard to steal from me. The very project Ethan and Lily conspired to steal, the Henderson account, became the cornerstone of my success, opening doors to an entire network of elite clients and partnerships. Success isn't just earned through hard work, it's sustained by integrity, clarity, and persistence. I glanced over the attentive crowd before me. The strongest connections are the ones built on honesty and trust, not ambition alone. I let a moment of silence speak. Some truths don't need embellishment. At times, the most dangerous obstacles are the people we trust the most. But overcoming those betrayals is what truly builds resilience. Once I finished, a handful of ambitious young professionals came forward, eager to hear my advice. One of them, a young woman with fierce eyes and steady posture, asked how I didn't break under the pressure. I told her I anchored myself in what I could control. I documented everything, trusted my gut, and never let fear dictate the direction of my dreams. That evening, an email from the Henderson client arrived, confirming a 3-year contract renewal. I smiled quietly, thinking back to that brunch and how different things could have been if I hadn't trusted my gut. That same morning, the local paper ran a piece on Lily and Ethan starting their sentences. I didn't bother reading it. Instead, my attention was on a new client proposal I was drafting, because I knew true revenge wasn't about retaliation. It was about rising above and thriving in spite of those who tried to drag you down.